Yo, finally, it's good to be back. Good to be back. Um,
It is.
it is indeed. Brand new series today. Gonna be trying this out a lot, and it's gonna improve my talking with everything. It's called Flicks and Bricks. So gonna try and do talk movies while I build Lego. Today I'll be building Luke Skywalker's speeder. So it's a small set, so I shouldn't go for too long, which is good. And today I got Cameron. Yeah.
What's up, everyone? How are we? Good to be back.
Oh, it's good, man. I had like a long, not a long layoff. It was like a week and a half or two. But as soon as I
Mm.
started YouTube, it was just like good to. It was a good flow I had, and then had like filming for my uni project, which was really fun. So I had to take a bit of time off, which is good. But I'm good to be back. And so today the challenge is to build this Lego speeder and also talk, which is the topic of discussion, which is why Star Wars Rebels is great or why I enjoy it, and sort of comparing it to Clone Wars a bit as well.
Hmm.
So recently we had the
Yeah.
new season of that, and which I found
Mm.
was pretty good.
Yeah.
I found it half and half. The first half was
Yeah.
alright, and then the second half just blew me away. Like you can tell, like the whole
Mm.
budget went to the final half, or like the first
Yeah.
four were like just fillers.
Yeah. Well, I felt like the first four episodes were like kind of normal, kind of Clone Wars episodes with the Bad Batch. The second four, I don't know what they were thinking there. They were like honestly probably the worst four of the whole series, in my opinion.
Oh
They were
yeah,
just they didn't even come into like even in the next episodes, they didn't even matter. But then the following four episodes, meaning the last four of the season, like the best
oh
of the whole
they were
series.
like
It was
amazing,
worth it, I guess. Yeah,
crazy.
that fight between Maul and Ahsoka felt like the realest fight in the whole series. Like you could feel the weight, you know? It wasn't just like kind of
Oh,
dancing around.
100%. Yeah, there was
You
more
could like
to it.
feel, yeah. Maul really is the most intriguing character in the Clone Wars. Like he brings the most because in the movies, you know, you see him go so early, and you're like, oh, it was kind of lame. Like he was such a cool. I
Yeah,
mean, he takes Qui-Gon, but like you know, it was kind of a bittersweet. So
I
now he
think
comes back, instantly welcomed.
I think because in the prequels he had very little lines and stuff, so like
Mm.
everyone found him. I think he was just. I think his design was so unique and cool that when everyone saw him and they saw double wielded lightsaber, they're like, "Oh my gosh!" Like
Mm.
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that's why I think they chose to resurrect him.
Yeah, the Clone Wars does a good job with that because it basically toys with what the fans wanted. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
not. Yeah, most of it is just, and you honestly learn so much about the backstory of the prequels and even the whole Star Wars overall. It's a couple weird ones, but for the most part, good. And same with Rebels. You know, you find out a couple things, and
yeah.
yeah,
Rebels. Yeah, we'll move on to Rebels now. Like we'll compare it to Clone Wars here and there. Everything
mm.
we discuss,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
guess, will be drawn back because Clone Wars was the first animated like show that came out, and then obviously we had Rebels. And when I finished Clone Wars, I was like, wow, I smashed through it. Then I saw it a second
mm.
time. My friend had told me about Rebels, this show, and it links to it. And then I'm like, all right, don't spoil it too much. Let me get into it. And then as soon as I started watching Rebels, I was like, in my honest opinion, I'm gonna be honest, I was like, what the heck is this? Because in
Mm.
my opinion, the animation was such a like, there was a bit of a drop, and it looked too cartoonish and childish.
Yeah. Considering it came out like what is it, about 10 years after Clone Wars, you're
Yeah,
thinking with animation would be a league and above, but it was like kind of worse. And I mean, it had a bit more of a childish kind of theme to it as well. Like that's by design, I'm sure, but just um, it did make it harder to watch if you're a bit like they cut
yeah.
away and stuff like that. Hobos was a bit more explicit with those and made it a bit more captivating at times. But
But
overall,
um,
it was pretty good.
the show, as soon as I started watching it, it did grow on me. Like in terms of like,
Mm.
as soon as it started connecting to Clone Wars and everything, I'm like, oh, okay, this is sick. And then certain characters from the original trilogy started coming in, and then I was like, oh, this is actually awesome and how they tied it. And then you also had the season. They teased Darth Vader at the end of season one. Then you had him at the start of season two, and then they were taking
Nice,
him
yeah,
on.
that's
And
good.
I like that underdog story where they survived the Clone Wars. Like you have Kanan who survived the Clone Wars, and they got to build from the ground up as well. Like
Yeah,
they're not like Kanan's not the best Jedi as well. Like you can tell the Inquisitors always like not outnumber him, but they always like there. You can tell like the
yeah.
skill level is not there, and they sort of have to grow together.
The whole season two, the end of season two, is like the best part of the whole show for Rebels, in my
Oh,
opinion. Like,
The Ahsoka Vader fight.
yeah, but even when was the whole Maul Obi-Wan thing? Is that
Um,
season 2? Or?
more Obi-Wan is I think end of season 3 or start of
Oh yeah,
season
it was
end of
afterwards. No,
season 2.
it wasn't around the Ahsoka time. So yeah, that makes
Yeah,
sense. But that fight was really good. Like I like how it was short, but it still meant a lot. But
yeah,
thing that I would critique about the show is that they had like these thin kind of lightsabers,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
although it seems like not that important, every time I'd watch a fight, I want to
It's
get
just
into it, but
annoying.
then I'm like, damn, why are their lightsabers so thin? And then
Especially when you
it kind of
compare it to the end of Clone Wars as well. Like Clone Wars, they
yeah,
had pretty good lightsaber battles no matter what. But in terms of like
mm,
what Ahsoka and Maul did, obviously the technology's improved and stuff, and they had bigger budget because there
yeah,
was more hype around it. But
yeah.
yeah, when I remember seeing the little lightsabers, and I was like, what is this?
It didn't take away from it, but
Yeah.
it just made it really harder to watch at
In,
times. Yeah.
in in terms of what I find childish as well, not childish in terms of like the only people that ever got shot were the clone troopers. Oh, not clone troopers, sorry, stormtroopers. Whereas in
Right.
Clone Wars, you see like people getting cut or like that.
Mm,
Like if someone gets stabbed
yeah,
by a
I know. What you mean.
lightsaber, you see the lightsaber going through, and where Rebels it always cuts away. And I
Yeah,
watched
yeah,
someone's video on that, and he complained a lot about Rebels being childish throughout the whole time, and he complained about Ezra always complaining and nagging and all that. But
yeah. There is a lot of that. There is a lot of that. I guess it's to his character, but
yeah, yeah,
I think there's definitely a room for in room in Star Wars at least that you could definitely do some sort of more graphic kind of animation. Not too graphic, but like
yeah,
Star Wars seems to be honestly kind of the best form of Star Wars because they're not limited by anything. Like the budget doesn't have to be that crazy to make
yeah.
animation really good. You know, like like people would probably watch like when Clone Wars finished, they wanted a Clone Wars style Revenge of the Sith, and I'd be 100% be down for that. That'd be an awesome movie to watch.
Oh,
But
100%.
there's so many things that they could do. They could explain so like they wouldn't have to even go further than the latest trilogy. They could just go to like little points in time, like a Dooku animated series
Yeah.
or even or Maul or something like that. Like there's so much room for all that. But yeah.
I think one of my favorites bits in Rebels, obviously, you had the end of season 2 with
Mm.
Ahsoka and Darth Vader. That was an amazing episode for me, and I think
Mm.
you can tell even when you look at like just the fan reactions to it, that's just one of the best. And I think because
Yeah.
they use Ahsoka like more of as a wild card in Rebels, like she's in it, but
Mm.
she comes here and there, obviously, and then we'll get to one of the episodes I love the most as well. But
Mm.
then season 3 is more of Maul's season, and then you have Ezra's kind
Yeah.
of like always he's having these visions as soon as he encounters him on Dathomir, and then
Mm.
I like those episodes where he's always like ever since the encounter at the end of season 2 with the holocron, where
Yeah.
they sort of merge or like connect with each other, and then he's always got that, and it makes Maul really like haunting, and I like that about him, like he's just
Yeah.
always there.
Yeah. Now Maul's character is like his hatred for Obi-Wan is really well done in Rebels because it's like, wow, he's still not he's still not happy that he's just alive. He wants to kill him. It's good. Makes it
Yeah, the
it gives
hate.
you like a reason to like hate more. But then when the fight happens and then he's slain
Yeah,
by
and
Obi-Wan, it's a good scene because he like kind of admits like, and then they have Luke in the background. That was
oh, that
probably
was
peak. Oh,
I
serious, yeah, that
I
was.
remember watching that episode for the first time when I watched Rebels, and
Mm,
my little brother, he came in and he's like, he walked in on that scene when I was watching it where I forgot her name, but it was Luke's auntie, and then
mm,
or like
yeah,
auntie where she's like, oh, when she's screaming Luke, and then he's like, oh, that's he even said, oh, that's actually so cool, and he's never seen Rebels. Like he walked in on
yeah.
that scene and he saw like the connection, he knew they were tying it in, and he goes, that's actually really
Mm.
cool, and I was actually loving it. And
Yeah,
then
no, it ties it in very well. Yeah,
I you sort of had that like as well, that mutual respect between Maul and Kenobi at the end. You know
yeah,
how he's like, oh, you must be protecting someone, and then as soon as he kills him, he's like, oh, is he the chosen one? And he's like, yeah, he will like bring peace to us all. And then
yeah,
I sort of
yeah.
had like,
Heal the Vengeance.
I feel like Kenobi even felt sorry for Maul at the end. Like
Mm,
he went through all that just to get clapped in 2 seconds. But
yeah, yeah. Well, I was watching somewhere that they were talking about how kind of Maul and Obi-Wan had been both kind of portrayed in the same kind of way, like they'd both been misled, but they thought they were doing the right thing. Like
yeah,
Maul he's going to be, you know, the apprentice to Sidious and rule the galaxy with him, kind of thing. He gets betrayed pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Well, not betrayed, you know, serves his purpose to kill Qui-Gon and then kind of leaves. And then Obi-Wan, same sort of thing, you know, he thinks he's fighting for the Republic, which the whole time has been controlled by Sidious. So they've both been betrayed by Sidious in the same. So kind of avenge us was hard hitting, because you can tell that it means a lot to both of them, and although they hate each other, they can see like maybe in another life they'd be, you know,
I think
not.
yeah, exactly. Like they had, although like Maul obviously had the hatred for him, they sort of had, it was like the enemy. I don't know what I forgot what the saying was. It's like the enemy of my enemy is my friend. I think it's that one.
Yeah,
I think
you got that kind of.
I think they sort of had that dynamic with them where if Obi-Wan hadn't chopped him, but they in another life they sort of have the same motives, like in terms of like who they're against and stuff. Because in Clone Wars you have Maul and Savage Press going up against Sidious.
That was a hectic scene.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was awesome. And I heard as well, you know, the episode where Maul's lost in the desert, the episode where he finds Kenobi. I heard that they're all meant to have flashback scenes to Savage and stuff and the Clone Wars and that incident, but I don't think they included.
Oh, that'd been cool.
Yeah, it was a bit missed opportunity there in that one. Now, also we have like in different seasons, also you have different like sort of villains that get introduced. So in the first one, you have the first Inquisitor, and then the second season you have, there's now more of them. There's two of them, and then you sort of, as soon as the rebels start sort of imprinting their name on the galaxy, then the Empire's like will come up with the big dogs. They introduce Thrawn, and I think Thrawn's one of my favorite characters, because I feel like there's too many missions where the rebels were like, or like sort of filler episodes where the rebels were just doing normal cargo, not cargo, like, or like supply runs or like normal assaults on bases, and it will be the typical rinse and repeat. All right, we'll do this, and then they'll have sort of maybe some difficulty. The plan never goes according to plan, and then they'll just get out. And it was rinse and repeat. That's why sometimes
I did feel like that a bit.
It became like the same sort of type of episode where they were just like doing the same objective, or just be different. Like, all right, this episode we're getting fuel. This episode we're getting food, and then they do assaults on bases, but it'll be the same outcome every time. Like, you know what's gonna happen.
Right. Yeah, Thrawn at a different dimension. He was like, you know, the hella bad guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was just well played. They made his character really well. He never like screams or gets angry, but that mellow voice really like gives you that like kind of high up kind of bad guy vibe, and it was really good.
Like even
like how he. Sorry, I'm just gonna say I like how he deciphers the fact that Callus is Fulcrum. That is probably one of
that was a good episode.
Probably the best. But yeah, that was like, because even I'm thinking, okay, although that Fulcrum kind of stuffed up a bit here, being Agent Callus, there still isn't enough for him to like figure it out. But then he like talks to, I can't remember her name, the lady that's like in charge.
Oh, Agent Price. I think it's Price.
Yeah, Price.
Yeah.
And then he's like, then he like talks about his thought process, and then he goes, so that's why Agent Callus is the mole.
Oh no,
and
it wasn't Price. It wasn't Price. It was, they brought in another general. It was a guy general, and he was like really looked after, and he's like, oh, Callus was one of my best students.
Oh right, yeah. That's right.
No,
that Paul gets set up as well. That was funny.
Yeah,
he like uses his. That was funny on the key card. It was a little pin thing, but it was just well done. And Callus ended up becoming one of the more liked.
And then
and it's cool because they set precedent for it with, you know, him and
Zeb.
Zeb.
On that episode where it was in the snow, and they both got lost. That was actually a really good episode. I enjoyed that.
Yeah. So they set it down, you know, not just this random sequel like I Am the Spy from bloody, what's his name? Brox.
The sequel.
Out of nowhere.
What's his name again? I forgot his name. Like that's how forgettable the sequel trilogy is. Yeah, General Hux. He's like, I am the spy, and they tried to make it comedic. Like, oh, I knew it was you. It was just, all right.
Yeah, like I rewatched The Force Awakens yesterday, and like they don't even tease a little bit that he could be good. Like he's straight up just ordering orders that would like cripple the resistance, but they still do it anyway, which means there's probably no connection. Like Fulcrum, at least you see how he's trying to like risk them, and
like
into all this.
the only thing they tease is that like he doesn't like Kylo Ren, but
Mm.
he's still for the Empire. But he's just like, oh, I'm done
Yeah,
with Kylo Ren. I was like, all right, whatever.
yeah. He looks more like a hungry kind of general that's
Yeah.
just being like, yeah,
But I like
like
Callus's turn when he has like when he goes to
mm.
Yavin and he has the transformation and the look. I was like, yeah, I like it, like because
Yeah, no,
he was sort of like what Thrawn couldn't be. What Thrawn like he was always what Thrawn was meant to be. If you get what I mean, like he was meant to be the this big bad guy that's always the nuisance chasing him down. And then
right, right.
When Thrawn came into play, this guy was just like he sort of respected the rebels. Like when they won and did something against like what he would do or like what he predicted,
Mm.
he'd sort of respect it. Like I remember there was one episode. He was like, "Let their rebels have their victory for today." And then
Yeah,
next
that's so
episode,
true.
he
That's
just
a
come
good
in
point.
with a new strategy. And when Thrawn came in, you're like, "Oh, it's gonna be harder," because like sometimes there was an episode where I think Hera was impersonating one of the villagers on her planet. I think Ryloth, and she was had this sort of French accent, and then
Oh,
even Thrawn realized he's like, I know you're onto something, and then he ended up capturing her.
yeah, yeah. He was always like, man, there's 400 IQ players
Yeah,
on the side.
400 IQ plays the whole
That
time.
was fun. Yeah, and his like respect for the rebels was like probably the coolest part because usually they're just like, oh, yeah,
Yeah,
rebel scum, this and that. He was like, oh, that was kind of smart. We better outthink him next time, though. And
yeah.
that's kind of how
It
it went.
it really did place the rebels in severe disadvantage, and like even like as soon as they started getting the numbers, you had like Mothma, who's in the original trilogy. As soon as she started showing that the rebellion was bigger, even though that they had bigger and strength in numbers, they were still struggling because of Thrawn. And he was
Yeah,
like really smart, and I think there's a missed opportunity, not missed opportunity, where like I like how they leave it open ended and they haven't really explained it much. Which hopefully for a fifth season we'll see what happened with Ezra and Thrawn,
mm,
but we still don't really know what
yeah.
happened there. But yeah, I'd like to also I want to touch on back on the Obi-Wan and Maul episode because I
Hmm.
remember that episode had so much hype leading into it, and everyone had you had the trailer and that's the standoff, and I think the trailer ended up being longer than the fight, like the standoff, and then I can see why some people would have been disappointed in terms of like they had these huge expectations for like a final showdown and stuff, but I think they got to take into consideration
Yeah.
that Maul was just gonna go all guns blazing from the start, and I think Obi-Wan knew that.
Mm,
And then I watched
yeah.
a video on it saying that Maul tried the same tactic on Obi-Wan as he did on Qui-Gon,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah. He was
he tried the hit with the
headbutt thing. Yeah.
he tried the headbutt, and then the hit with the hilt of the lightsaber, and then
Mm.
Obi-Wan's like, "Nah, fam, I'm just gonna cut through that."
No,
So you can tell, it showed how like I think Obi-Wan sort of like how much more wiser he became, and then
Mm.
sort of like when he had that time to rethink, and then Maul was just enraged. So I think he wasn't even
Yeah.
thinking straight at the time.
Yeah. When they first initially meet, he's like, look what I've risen above or something like that. And he's like,
Yeah,
look what you've become. And he's like, yeah. So it's probably the best way to subvert expectations in that fight because everyone's thinking it's going to be this long drawn out fight like
yeah,
Anakin Obi-Wan Revenge of the Sith or even the
yeah.
initial
Going through like
Obi-Wan apprentice. It shows that more although his like hatred has stayed kind of consistent, Obi-Wan has become wiser and wiser over the years. So he's like
yeah,
outgunned him, not in terms of combat. And he was always like that, Obi-Wan. Like he'd always use his environment and kind of outthink the opponent, not always have the best kind of swordsmanship with the lightsaber. So I like how they did that. I think it was one of the better ways they could have ended it. Although I was like, oh, kind of sucks short, but when you think about it, it makes perfect
yeah.
sense.
When you actually like dissect it and stuff, and that's
Mm.
why I really think when because Rebels and Clone Wars were created by Dave Filoni and George Lucas, and then you also have now Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau on The Mandalorian, and George Lucas has an input as that as well. And The Mandalorian we'll
Mm.
discuss in the next video, but
Mm.
I think they understand Star Wars, whereas the sequel trilogy, they just I don't know, they just
Uh,
tried too much, and then
yeah, the sequel trilogy really is a letdown. It's a shame because you see things coming out now that they didn't know what Daisy Ridley's Rey's lineage was going to be until like the
yeah,
last movie.
I reckon we'll
And
discuss the sequel trilogy for another video, but because
okay,
that can be like that can be
it's
dissected
okay.
like crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
But I
Or
think
something.
everything's been said about it. Like it's just like
Yeah, basically to this point. I heard that they were gonna possibly like retcon the whole
yeah.
trilogy,
Oh
something from Rebels, which was the
yes,
world between worlds.
yes. That was what I was getting onto, and that was
Okay.
because I'm watching Rebels for the third time now, and this is I've got 2 episodes left, and this is what I find with Rebels and Clone Wars. They're my favorite piece of Star Wars material, and I find them
Mm.
so rewatchable. I don't know why, but I think it's just because they add so much depth to the world. All right, there's flaws. Obviously, there's flaws in it. There's heaps of filler episodes here and there, but there's more filler in Rebels than Clone Wars for sure. But Rebels, when
Mm.
the hard hitting episodes hit, like the big ones,
Yeah.
they are mental. Like when I
Mm.
watched the World Between Worlds the other day, I was like, I actually just love this. It adds so much scope and like especially when Ezra enters and you have all the voices. You have the prequel trilogy, you have the sequel trilogy, you have even the OT as well. Like
Yeah.
even though I have I like we've said what we've said about the sequel, even though they include voices of that, and then you have Donnie Yen's character in Rogue One. I forgot his name, but they had his voice as well. I'm one with the Force, the Force is
Mm.
me, and then
Yeah.
I was like, they're
It's
going all out
cool.
with it. It's such a cool concept, but obviously like there's plot holes with it in terms of like if it was that important to the Emperor, like he would have been down there
Right.
himself. But like
Right. Right. Yeah. It was a bit like it kind of worked, but some of like I couldn't help but thinking like saying they kind of just threw this in like. But the thing is, what was the purpose of the world between worlds in Rebel? Because basically he saves Ahsoka, right? He like,
so, I think the whole time was so obviously he had the Loth Wolves sending him messages the
mm,
whole time, and it's like Doom and stuff. I think he thought originally it was Kanan as the wolf, and he returned,
yeah,
but I think it wasn't. I think just it was Kanan. Like he became an embodiment in the Force. Like he wasn't the wolf himself, but he was projecting himself through the Force. I think it was like that.
right, yeah, that
But
makes sense.
but I get how they established that the Loth Wolves and stuff have their own connection to the Force, and
Mm,
that they're very like they can travel through hyperspace in some episodes, or like time travel, not time travel,
yeah,
teleport between Lothal.
yeah, that
So
was
I
cool.
think
Like it,
because Lothal was in danger, and Ezra had this connection to the Force with them, and he was Force sensitive, so they were trying to help him out, and then they gave him the piece of the puzzle, and then
mm,
I think they just sort of guided him, and then obviously you have the owl which guided him as well. Um,
yeah,
the owl, what's its name? The owl's name's Morai, and it's it's the embodiment of the daughter from the father son daughter from Clone Wars.
right. That's right.
So I
Yeah.
think that the owl helped as well, which is where like the wolves led him to the Jedi Temple, and that was the world between worlds, and then the owl sort of
Mm,
helped as well. Like this is the one, this is the event
yeah,
Ahsoka, and he pulled her out.
mm, yeah. It's a cool scene. So yeah, but what I was trying to get at is Ahsoka. Would she have died to Vader if she'd stayed in there?
See, when you watch the season two end of like the season two ending, it looks like they had a big clash, and then it just
Yeah,
left, and then it showed
through the
Vader
floor.
leaving, and it showed Ahsoka descending into into the temple.
Mm,
But then when the episode like when the world between worlds happened, it showed Vader was about to deliver a killing blow, but Ezra pulled her
mm.
out. And then
Yeah, it looked like
when they ran away from the Emperor, Ahsoka went back to the temple and she descended back down. So it was that same scene on repeat.
right. So it really didn't make a difference. It was more just like a pause or
Yeah.
something.
So I don't know how like I'm not the best with time travel. I don't know how it works. It's like that event was already gonna happen.
Yeah, yeah, that's what it felt like. Mm. That was cool.
I don't know how time works, but it doesn't.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what else they do with that. I kind of like and don't like the fact that they brought up the world between worlds.
When they said they were gonna retcon the series or using that concept where it's like the veil of the Force, and I watched a video on it. It's a bit tacky the way. Like I
Yeah,
liked it in Rebels. I was like one and done, and then the temple disappeared. Because like
Yeah,
if
I
you can
like that.
if you can transcend time and space and control it through the veil of the Force, then that's really overpowered. You can just then they can it's just like lazy, not lazy, yeah, lazy writing. They can just
It is. Yeah,
retcon
it is.
anything they want, basically.
Yeah, it'd be cool if there's some sort of price you had to pay or something to
Yeah,
get in there.
and then
It's like,
anything if they do retcon the sequel trilogy, I think it just create more problems.
mm, it's unfortunate that it was so bad that people want to actually retcon it. Like, I wasn't really like around when the prequels were released, but I'm sure people were saying similar things, like they wish it should never have happened or something like that. But because it was before the original trilogy, it kind of
Yeah,
made it a bit more okay because it's like it just did things in really weird ways, maybe like bad writing here and there, but it still came to the end
yeah,
conclusion, which were kind of liked, and they liked to see how
but
Vader.
it feels more Star Wars than the sequel trilogy ever did, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. The prequel trilogy is like the epitome of Star Wars at
Yeah,
certain points. Mad lightsaber battles, and I
but
mean
like
the first one, meh,
I don't
but
hate the prequels, so
no, neither do
that's
I. I
just me.
find them quite enjoyable. Yeah, like you can put the bad writing aside if like the story overall is good,
Yeah,
but there's just kind of some lazy spots and some like boring, Trade
CGI
Federation.
as well. Like it's just
Yeah, yeah,
sometimes it's just
yeah. It
wonky.
doesn't hold up.
But even when you watch the third one, there's a
Mm,
major step in like Return of the Revenge of the Sith. There's a major step in the CGI from like the other ones as well. Like you can
mm.
see it straight away in the first battle.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. It steps up, which is good. I wanted to talk a bit about Sabine because she looks like she's going to play a more important role. I liked her character overall because she like really unveils like what's cool about Mandalore and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Like with her, she's like a gateway into the whole how
Yeah,
the system works, all the clans and factions, and
and she's had a backstory where um it links to Clone Wars when the Empire took over Mandalore, and she was like in the Imperial
mm,
Academy and everything.
yeah, yeah, and she like developed the weapon, right? She did that, yeah. So it's
She developed that electrical weapon where like
yeah,
destroys
like.
Mandalorian armor.
Mm. Yeah, so that was a cool scene. Like it's she has kind of like a stake in the
Yeah,
game, she's not random. Yeah, that was well done from Sabine. But her character is still up. So I'm not I'm trying to think of like where they're gonna take all the characters because they all I know Hera was a part of the resistance. You see that in Rogue One, like a little teaser of Captain
yeah,
Syndulla to reporting in.
and
So she's like
Chopper's
in the
there as
resistance.
well.
Yeah,
But
that's
then,
cool.
but then the way Rebels wraps up in season 4, you have Sabine's speech where she's like, "Oh, we won the Battle of Endor," so she was obviously there.
Mm,
Then Ahsoka came to her. So when Ahsoka comes to her, that's clearly after everything.
right,
So
right. It would be.
that's how it could link to Mandalorian, because Mandalorian is set after the fall of the Empire, and Ahsoka comes to
Yeah,
Sabine after the fall of the Empire. So
right.
that's what I'm saying. So when we discuss the Mandalorian trailer, I've got something where I think someone talks about how what I've heard in the like just from behind the scenes stuff about what they're gonna do with Ahsoka in that series.
Mm,
But in
yeah.
terms of Sabine and stuff, you had the Dathomir episode with Maul when she finds the dark saber, and that
That's
was
good
a
scene.
cool little pretty tie to um that was a cool little pretty tie to Clone Wars as well. And you remember
Yeah,
that. But then it also went further beyond. So then you had the Mandalorian episodes where she goes back to her home, she's unwelcomed, and then they have to try
yeah,
and she has the help of Fen Rao, I think. Yeah, Fen Rao.
mm,
So she has the help of
yeah,
him, and they try to like obviously bring all the clans back together, and then Bo-Katan comes into it. So Satine's
that was
sister,
cool.
and Bo-Katan's also going to be in the Mandalorian new season. So there's also links
Mm,
to that. So she comes in,
yeah,
and then obviously you have the episode where she's like, "You're the true leader," and she gives it. Because I think in Rebels Sabine's only like 15 or 16.
really, yeah. Well,
Yeah, so
she's like a.
so to be granted like that much power, I think she was she was not gonna do that at that age. Like, and I think it was a wise decision to like hand over the reins.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough.
All right, so now moving on. There's a bit of a lull there, but there wasn't like Rebels is pretty short in terms of like it's only 4 seasons, and the fourth season's only I think 15 episodes. It's not too much, and they're only
Yeah.
20-minute episodes. But we can talk about the connections from Rebels to Clone Wars, and then we'll move on to why Clone Wars is good as well. Well,
Yeah.
more than good in
Okay.
my opinion, more than good. And I think each time I watch them, so the first time I watched Rebels, I really liked it, and then I watched it. Then I rewatched Clone Wars, and then I went back to Rebels. And the second time I was watching Rebels, I'm like, this is better than Clone Wars, because I think the hard hitting episodes were just like, oh, these are awesome, like the big stage episodes. And I kept saying, oh, this is better than Clone Wars. But then when I rewatched Clone Wars, I'm like, nah, this is better. So I keep changing in between. But
Fair enough.
I think just because I enjoy them so much, and going back onto that, they understand what Star Wars is, and like Dave Filoni and George Lucas, who helped create Clone Wars as well. Like, he's the maker of Star Wars, obviously, but I think
Yeah.
just going back on drawing, like, they understand what the fans want, and just like, it's a lot of fan service, but also a lot of good fan service in that it helps the story and
Right.
also broadens the universe as well. So if you want to
Yeah,
talk
exactly.
about, there's a couple connections as well, and I think it's in, I can't remember, I can't remember if it's the second or first season, but obviously you have the connection to Clone Wars where you have the clones come back. You have Rex, the old lad. I think it was
Yeah.
Rex Wolf and Gregor.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So you have that
Yeah.
connection.
Did we ever see how Wolf and Gregor get out of
I
like get the
think
chip out?
I think one of them dies. I think Wolf dies or like gets
Is it-
shot.
Yeah, I thought it was Gregor though. Is
Yeah.
it like the fight? Yeah, but initially how they get the because like you obviously have to get the chip out, and they Ahsoka does it to Rex,
Yes.
but
Yeah, they never
how does
explain it.
Wolf was the leader of one of them? Like
Yeah.
you see him in Star Wars. He's not just some random. I'm not sure about Gregor though. Do you ever see Gregor before
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Rebels?
They must have been like, the only explanation I can come to is because like obviously you have Ahsoka removing the chip for Rex in the latest Clone Wars series, but
Mm.
then a lot of people like, oh, what happened to Wolf and Gregor then? I guess maybe the only explanation I see is like maybe Rex got to them and told them about it, and he could save him.
Yeah,
That's my only like thought about it.
yeah. I'm pretty sure Wolf was like you see him in Clone Wars. I think he's like the commander of another battalion, but I'm not sure which one. Like
Yeah,
obviously
yeah.
Rex was
Wolf was big, but as soon as that went, like first impressions watching that for the first time, I freaked out because I was like, oh, it's so cool. And then you also had they revealed that in the original trilogy in Return of the Jedi on the Battle of the Forest Moon of Endor, when they had they were infiltrating the base, they confirmed that Rex was one of the soldiers there as well. He was the big
Yeah,
bad guy.
yeah.
And I was like, that's actually so cool that you follow Rex throughout the whole Clone Wars, you love him, and then to see that they've built on him and they've included him like throughout other times, like he's had a life, man.
Yeah.
Like he's gone through
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, he really has. Yeah, it's lucky they had some white bearded guy.
Yeah, yeah.
In,
It just so happened.
otherwise,
They're like, yep, we'll make that Rex.
yeah, sure, you could be Rex. Yeah, no worries.
But I think that's just for me. That's why, in terms of like adding depth to the world, it's just those little fan service moments that I like. And then obviously you have in Rogue One, you have the Rebels connections where you have the Ghost, you have Chopper, you have Hera. So that's what I like as
Yeah.
well but it shows that they were just a little faction there. They weren't.
Yeah, they weren't big.
Yeah.
They was a rebellion. Yeah, the the best part about the Clone Wars overall, I would say, is how it grounds the clones and it makes them feel like people because
Yeah.
you see them in the first in the prequels, you see them like CGI'd up. They barely look like
Yeah,
just kind of
there wasn't a single
commands.
single real costume used for a clone trooper in the
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So that made it feel a bit off, but also like they just kind of felt like robots kind of thing.
yeah.
Whereas Clone Wars really like some of the best Clone Wars episodes are like when they're training them up and how they have to work together to finish that like simulation run.
Yeah.
The training. Just it's better than like that because you think, oh yeah, look how they were like basically bred as soldiers and birds. It's
Yeah.
cool.
Because I think the prequel trilogy like made him out to we're just this general Jedi general 10 years ago, Cypher Dyas ordered the construction of this clone army. You don't get much explanation, but then the Clone Wars sort of does it. But I get why people would be angry at the prequels because like some people don't even know about these TV shows. But for me, or like for us, that's why we love them. They add so much depth. But for people, other
Right.
people, they want to explain in the movies, and it's not explained in the movies.
Yeah, it isn't. They probably could. There's so many scenes that I
Yeah,
feel like could go. But yeah, yeah, the whole Cypher DS backstory would be interesting, kind
yeah,
of off to do because like that still confuses everyone. Like his name's brought up so many times, Jedi, and he ordered the thing of the clones, but you never know why
yeah.
or if he was controlled or manipulated. So
Then you have that one little episode where it shows you he was like captured and stuff, and he was like
yeah,
sort of mental and deranged, and then you're like, he had that crash. I think it was with Mace Windu. They went and investigated like a desert planet or like a sand planet, and it was like a sandstorm, and they found his old ship or something.
that's right. That's
They had a
right. Yeah.
distress signal. See, it's crazy
Mm.
like how you remember some stuff, because like there's
Yeah.
the memorable episodes, and then obviously in Clone Wars, the Rebels connection as well. You have that the Mortis gods. You have that connection as well, where they introduced
Mm.
the father, son, daughter, and then that connects to Rebels as well. So when watching Rebels for the first time as well, you see the painting,
Mm.
the Leonardo
Yeah,
DiCaprio
you
meme. You're like, "Ah, that's it, that's it."
the whole father son daughter thing that could be a bit better explained as well. I mean, it's cool because it shows how powerful Anakin is in the
Yeah,
Clone Wars. 'Cause, oh damn, he's like
yeah,
lifting them both up. But it's kind of like one is the All Father, and then one is light, one is dark. But you never really understand why they all have to be there, or like what's their
yeah,
purpose. Like if they're controlling like the universe, and then when they go, it kind of falls into like it can be
but
unbalanced,
yeah,
make more sense. But you can see that it had already been unbalanced like before. So it was a bit of well, it was a bit confusing with not enough context, I'd
but
say.
George
But
Lucas, I think what I've read about is that he wanted his sequel trilogy. It was all about the wills of the Force. So like the wills of the Force. He wanted to make it about that. So I think the father, son, daughter, and then I didn't. You remember that episode where Yoda goes by himself and explores a couple things, and he has to go to when I think Qui Gon appears to him, and he goes, "Oh, there's
yeah,
other ways." Because Qui Gon obviously died, and he teaches Yoda that there's a way to transcend yourself into the Force after death. And then Yoda
yeah.
goes on that mission, and then you see all those weird smiley faces, the smiley, happy, sad.
Oh yeah,
So I think George Lucas wanted to do something as well with that, talking about the wills of the Force. That's what he wanted his sequel trilogy about. But I actually love
yeah,
that episode as well when Yoda has all the visions and he goes to the Jedi Temple and it's like when Dooku was good and the temple was all like
yeah,
that was actually really sick seeing everyone there.
yeah. That was cool seeing it. Those like semi-confusing episodes of the Clone Wars, which made it more interesting because it wasn't just like blasters and lightsabers. It actually
Yeah.
gave it some context, and you really wanted to know why things were happening the way they were.
Yeah, a lot of episodes was just like blasters and lightsabers as well, but they were cool. I
Yeah.
still enjoyed it. I love that
Mm.
like a lot of people hate on Attack of the Clones, but when I watched the ending of that movie and you have the Geonosis battle and you have the clones versus the clankers and I was like that reminds me of Clone Wars. That's why I like the end battle there. That's just me,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. No, exactly. It's cool how basically the whole Clone Wars is set between the second and the third movie. Like,
that's a big
in,
time jump.
yeah, it is a big time jump, but it's not um, like it's to fit so much in there is
Yeah,
a
because
good effort.
it's
They
like
really went into detail.
it's like I think it's like a 2 or 3 year gap, but the show like fits it in perfectly. And then you also have the new season, which we'll get onto soon. I guess we'll
Mm,
talking. I know we discussed it at the start, but we'll discuss it more now. But you also have the new
mm,
season that goes into depth as well with the time that was happening, what was happening at Revenge of the Sith at the time, and it sort of explained
yeah,
why Anakin and Ahsoka were apart, which is good as well. Because
yeah. It was like,
I can see why some people when you start watching Clone Wars for the first time, you're like, who's this Ahsoka girl? Like,
yeah,
Anakin had an apprentice? What the heck? But then
yeah,
she ends up being my favorite character in all of Star Wars. So
yeah. The good thing about Clone Wars is it seeds his like turn to the dark side even better. Like you
yeah,
see him go
hundred
like code
percent.
a bit more, and you see him like force choke when he's interrogating, and it just lays down a better foundation. Like it's not that it's not warranted in the Revenge of the Sith. Like you can see it coming when he slays the Sand People
Yeah,
and stuff like that. and, he sees his mum like that, it could turn, and even Yoda sensing he's got fear and whatever. But it still seems a bit forced, even at the Revenge of the Sith. Like you could still be questioning, oh well, if he wanted to save Padme and then she dies, why does he stay as Darth Vader and why is he still dark? But
Yeah.
then old, I think in the game, is it Jedi Fallen Order? Fallen Order? No, not Fallen. What's the other one?
Which one?
Force Unleashed.
Force
Sorry,
Unleashed,
Force
yeah.
Unleashed.
Yeah.
Where Vader is basically told that he can still bring Padme back and all this and that, and it's just cool. It gives him a drive, and then even when Ahsoka comes in Rebels and tries to say, "I'm not leaving you this time," it's not enough because he's so turned.
Yeah,
And
he's done. Like,
Yeah, and takes Luke his son, which is basically his last remembrance of Padme being, their son had together. So it's pretty well done. It's a good arc.
yeah, but also I like just sort of some episodes. The reason why I love Clone Wars so much is that we're so used to like the same planets over and over, and then you just had this broadened world. So you had the episode with the Mon Cala and the Quarren. You had the episode with that and the young prince, and that was
Oh yeah,
Admiral Akbar, the legend, bro, the goat.
yeah, yeah. It does definitely build the world a bit more.
Yeah.
Like it builds the universe much better.
For me, what I liked so much about it is that obviously in the Battle of Geonosis you had about freaking 10,000 Jedi land on the Colosseum sort of battle arena, and then I love Clone Wars because you get to see more of the other Jedi. All right, camera cut out, my bad, ran out of battery, not good. But in terms of going back, I was saying it adds so much scope in terms of like we get to follow all the other Jedi. You have like
Yeah.
you have the ones shown in the movies like Kit Fisto, you have Plo Koon, Secure, I think it's Secura, Secura, yeah, Secura, and
Something like that.
yeah, something like that. And then you get to follow through all of them, and that's what I like because they have like their own sort of clone battalions. And some episodes are not even like with Anakin or Obi-Wan, who you follow all the time. You have the other Jedi, like how they're vulnerable. And there was an episode with a Jedi named Jedi Master Dai, and fitting, how he ended up being surrounded by clones. Like his battalion got surrounded by clones, and they like went out like all or nothing basically. And
Or droids.
yeah, he ended up dying to droids, which shows like
Yeah.
each Jedi is not equal to 1,000 droids, as they say. Like, although he might have been not the best, it shows like they're still vulnerable to it. Like,
Right.
it gave the clankers
Yeah.
like, even though the droids we muck around, it's like Raja the whole time. Like, it did show that when they have their strength in numbers, that it still can overwhelm even like a Jedi, which is pretty good. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, it also shows like the attachment of the Jedi to their clone troopers. Like there's that one scene where I think it's Master Plo. He's yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Plo. He's like trapped on a ship, and then there's like even the clone troopers go like, "We're clone troopers. We're expendable," and he's like, "You're not to me." You know what I mean?
Yeah,
He's shocked.
that was really good.
Yeah, like that's a good scene because it shows that like Jedi really do have that underlying like emotion that they fight with,
Yeah.
like they
It,
love the clone troopers, that they want
it
to die.
kind of sucks because you end up growing to love the clone troopers in Clone Wars and the Jedi, how they're like, you're not expendable, and it's like all this time that it's just like the Jedi are being so blind because they're being like
Yeah.
not attached sort of, but they're so focused on this war.
Mm. Yeah, no, it's good how they make that connection because it makes it even worse when they turn on them, because it's
Yeah,
like and they weren't just expendable units. Like a lot of Jedi had like massive attachments, like Anakin and Rex, like and Cody and Obi-Wan, like they all were really tight, and it makes it worse that they just turn on them.
like they're
Yeah,
there from the start. It's just
yeah,
day one
they
basically.
really are.
And then also, there's other episodes in terms of like adding scope. You have other episodes where the clone troopers think for themselves as well. You have the episode where I think it was Jedi Master Pon Krell, the four armed one.
They're the best. They're
Yeah,
the clone.
I like, even though he ended up being bad guy, I actually loved him when I first saw him. Oh, this guy's so cool. 4 arms. I think it was 2 lightsabers that he had, or I can't remember. It was 4 or 2, but I know he had 2.
I think at 4. Yeah,
Yeah, he had
I
all
think
this
he had
stuff,
4.
and he was such a badass. But then you could tell that he was so like one-sided, one-dimensional in terms of his tactics, and he kept getting his clone troopers killed.
Mm.
Where he had like Anakin on the other side of the planet. I think he was on the planet as well. Like they were doing well, but then you also had like Rex was with Pon Krell. I think it was Rex, and they had to make that decision at the
Yeah.
end when they captured him, and then Rex. I think it was Rex who couldn't kill him, but someone else did. So yeah,
Yeah, I think it's Dogma in the end, which is a cool part
yeah,
because it basically there's a couple episodes there where the Crow is like, abusing his authority a
yeah,
bit, making the clones do stuff that they know is not right. Those episodes show that the clones aren't just mindless robots because basically they all but one called Dogma, like dogmatism, which is quite a cool and it kind of refers to how they're not robots, they do think for themselves.
yeah, yeah,
And that touches
definitely.
well, like when the clone troopers did get altered by Order 66, they became less effective on the battlefield for the reason that they couldn't be creative anymore, and they did become like robots. So that's why they kind of phased out clone troopers, and that's kind of smart. So it's cool how they had like, although they were pretty loyal to the cause and they would do mostly everything, you'd have some like Rex who, even after time, would see that orders were false and
Yeah,
definitely gonna, hurt his team and hurt his soldiers. So
yeah,
it's cool, but yeah, like even Dogma comes around in the end and ends up. I think he ends up blastering Krell,
yeah.
which is just
Like they said,
it's
like they're not expendable, and I think they realized in that episode. I know we're singling out a couple episodes. I think it was like one or two,
mm,
but they realized that they weren't like we're not expendable, man. Because they like I think they were realizing that his tactics were costing him lives. Like a lot of them
yeah.
were dying.
And when he like teams up the clones against each other, but says they're wearing clone uniforms,
Yeah,
and then discovers that it's just other clones. That was a really good scene.
yeah,
It was a because even at that point, you're thinking that maybe Krell does just have like brutal tactics that do work.
yeah. But then it ended up being
You haven't actually, yeah, like you haven't actually figured it out yet. So that was
yeah.
like a really good twist. It was well done. It was really well done.
What else? Because the Clone Wars is 7 seasons. There's a lot to it, and there's
Mm,
definitely a lot of episodes. I know we've probably missed out on a lot because
yeah,
I actually am gonna watch
I
it for
think.
I am gonna watch it for a fourth time after I finish Rebels. But that's because it's so easy for me to watch. It's just 20 minutes. I can watch one a day if I want, and just now that I've watched it
Mm,
once, like yeah, sometimes, and I think it gives me the luxury to skip some of the episodes. Like I know there's some episodes where I think there's 2 or 3 episodes where it just follows droids, and this little
yeah,
short midget guy. I can't remember what he was. He's like,
yeah, yeah. That was funny. They're funny episodes, like if you're a kid, but
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
but you can tell like they're just a bit filler. And but there's also some cool episodes where you have like Yoda teaching the young Jedi how getting their kyber crystals, which is on Ilum, and Ilum is also in
oh
Jedi.
yeah.
It's also in Jedi Fallen Order,
Mm.
and
Also was it?
yeah, okay,
Is it possibly in the Mandalorian trailer? Did I see
I'm not
that?
sure, but
That planet he crashes
yeah,
on.
yeah. But the thing is,
It's
Ilum's
really
where
deep.
young Jedi go get the kyber crystals, but in
Mm.
Jedi Fallen Order, it's the game which I enjoyed. I actually really enjoyed playing it. It was pretty short, but I really enjoyed it. It sucks there's no open world Star Wars game, but I
Mm.
really enjoyed it. And even though it's so frustrating at points, but the story is really good. It's similar to Rebels in terms like this Jedi Cal Kestis, similar to Kanan, sort of like he had a
Yeah.
master, died in the Clone Wars, and there's some cool flashbacks to Clone Wars similar to that. And Ilum's actually in that game. That's where you go get your Kyber crystal to build your saber.
Mm.
And Ilum actually ends up being Starkiller Base in the sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
Hence,
Oh,
how
that's
come
great.
that's how they probably built it because like it's similar to it's similar to how in Rebels you had the episodes where the Empire was transferring precious cargo, and they had the
Yeah.
episodes in Rebels with oh what's his name what's his name, he's in Rogue One, um oh his name's on the tip of
In
my tongue.
Rebels,
Yeah, he's in Rebels and
so
he's in
Guerrera.
Saul Guerrera, and he's in Clone Wars as well, and
Yeah.
he's like a sort of like a guy where he's like, oh, where he's always criticizing the rebellion for being too soft, and I sort of like him like that. I like it was such a, and that episode where the kyber crystal and they're like, what are they using it for? And you know it's to the
Mm.
Death Star, but they keep alluding on it like
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they're always like, oh, what's the Empire building? What's the Empire building? And they had that episode where they go back to Geonosis in Rebels, and they have the little the Geonosian click clack, I think, and
Oh yeah, yeah.
he's asking him, what are they building? What are they building? And he draws the circle within a circle, and then we know
Mm.
what that is, but they just not
Yeah,
they don't. It's just I actually enjoyed that bit.
yeah. That was very well done actually. How they go back to generation because you kind of just use it as a planet, but you don't really understand why in the trilogy. But then they kind of
Yeah,
delve into. It's good. Yeah, Saw Gerrera's character is actually really good because it shows that even there's like rebels. You know what I mean? Like there's people that just
yeah,
don't want to be part of anything. They just want to rebel. But yeah, his character is good because it also shows like you see his sister part like die in
yeah.
Clone Wars and
It connects it
he
back
had
to.
yeah, it's well done.
Um, I'm trying to think what else because Clone Wars obviously there's so many episodes. We discussed I think some of the like actually most important ones, and then you also have
Mm,
bringing back more when like I knew sort of before I
yeah,
watched Clone Wars that he comes back, but I didn't know what they were gonna do with him. And watching Clone
right.
Wars, what he goes through is actually like pretty awesome. You see what
Yeah,
um you see what happens with Savage Press, and you have the Night Sisters on Dathomir, and then everything that goes through there. And then you also have then that leads to Mandalore, and then him ruling Mandalore, which is actually I actually quite enjoyed seeing more as their ruler.
yeah. It was cool because like even though the Mandalorians were like probably didn't like Maul because he kills
Yeah,
the
Satine.
leader. No, no, what's the other guy? I forget his name.
Oh, Pre Vizsla.
Yeah, yeah, that was
Yeah,
the guy. They just like respect the code so much that they'll
yeah.
just let the guy just because he was like supremely the better
But
warrior.
but then obviously you had the defectors as well, like um Bo-Katan and her like clan sort of.
Yeah. Oh right, like the Death Watch and stuff. It's cool. There's so much like lore in the Mandalorian
Yeah,
that it could go over. And it's cool. Hopefully they do touch on that in the Mandalorian season 2 because
yeah.
like
Well,
Mandalorian season 1 was good, but it kind of like was just on him. You know what I mean? It
yeah,
didn't really go too much and like you see a bit with the armored lady, but that's pretty much about it.
yeah. Well, I guess because they casted Bo-Katan for the third one, for the Mandalorian,
The-
and
right.
she ends up with the dark saber in Rebels. So obviously she's lost it
Mm.
to Moff Gideon in
Yeah.
Mandalorian because he has it. So there's some tension between that as well. So I'm guessing something's happened.
Mm. Yeah, that'd be cool to figure that out actually.
Because
See.
I'm gonna be honest, I'm not too sure what happens to Mandalore after the Clone Wars episode. Oh no, you do. Sorry, Rebels explains a bit. Yeah, yeah. How it's all the like
Yeah.
different clans and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, they stay neutral though, don't they? They never fall to
Who?
either.
Yeah, yeah.
Man, yeah, it's cool how they're like part of the neutral systems. It makes sense
Trying to
as to
think.
why they be because they're basically neutral from the start, hold their own. So
um, Want to move on to talking about the new season, or is there anything else you'd like to discuss in Clone Wars?
yeah, we could talk about a bit of that new season.
The new season, obviously, so much hype built around it, and we got teased the Bad Batch first, and those first two episodes, I think it was two or four.
Bad Batch is 4.
Yeah, okay. So the episodes with the Bad Batch I quite enjoyed. Like I really enjoyed it. Like normal old school Clone Wars. I felt like it could have been trimmed down to two or three, because I remember one
Yeah.
episode was dedicated to them escaping a certain situation. So that's
Mm.
that's that's what I didn't. I was like, oh, you're sort of like dragging it on a bit, which that's what I felt the final season was, in my opinion. Like if you're judging the whole season based on its own, it was a bit of a drag for me in terms of like
Yeah.
what I
Agreed.
expected, what characters, what I wanted to happen to certain characters, who I wanted to see more of, and I didn't get that. I felt like it was more of Ahsoka's season than focusing on the
Yeah.
other characters.
Yeah, it's fair enough. I would have liked to see more, like, even though there was a couple, like, the more Revenge of the Sith kind of tie-overs have been cool, but I think they did a pretty good job. But but the second 4 episodes of the last season are so bad. Like, they literally mean nothing. And they don't even add to Ahsoka's, like,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
you could think to just show that she's like not part of the Jedi anymore. But like we knew that already. Like
Yeah,
you know, seen her leave. Like she could have just come back in that one hologram with Rex and been like, "Hello, Master," and
yeah,
this and that. Like been even cooler because it'd been more of a reveal rather than
yeah.
seeing her like really say, "All right, I might talk to these Jedi guys again."
Like
And like,
the Bad Batch, they were good 4 episodes. Like maybe just could have trimmed it down, fair enough. But the next four, okay, I was like, each week because they released it weekly, it made it worse.
mm,
um,
yeah,
the
exactly.
I was watching it and they introduced Trace. I believe their names were Trace and Rafa, and then I think that's what their name, Trace and Rafa, and they introduced them, and I was like,
Yeah.
okay, let me see where they're going with this. They introduced these
Mm,
characters, and then like I'm not hating on Trace and Rafa just because they're women. Like Ahsoka's my favorite character, but in terms of
mm,
like where they fit in the story, I felt like they were just pointless. You just introduced them, and fair enough. After one episode, I was like, all right, fair. It's just one episode. It's probably a filler one. But when they dragged it on to 4 episodes and sort of like, I think they ended up being with the Pike Syndicate, and they did something to escape, and they did like certain things to escape. I can't remember, but they did certain things to escape, or just to end up back in the cell where they started. So it was
oh
like the
yeah.
episode was all pointless, and it ended. She was still trapped there. So
Mm,
I was getting frustrated. I'm like, each week I kept telling myself, all right, this is the week it's gonna change. This is the week it's gonna change, and then
right.
nothing was
Yeah.
changing, and then that's why I think I just grew increasingly frustrating with it. And when I was watching it, I was just like, surely this is the week. This is the week, but it just kept
Right.
being the same rinse and repeat story. So if
Yeah.
like
It was.
to anyone watching Clone Wars, I encourage just to skip episode 5 to 8 of the new season. Like,
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there actually was anything valuable. I don't think there was. Like the thing is, right? It was basically a normal filler episode that could have happened in like season, 1 through 6. Like
yeah,
because it did feel like a normal kind of filler episode. It was kind of a bad one of that, but it like if it happened earlier, you could maybe forgive it. But when it's like this hyped up seventh season, that's meant to like
yeah,
basically forward to the Revenge of the Sith, and then it's like you got 4 episodes, like a third of the whole season is just rubbish. Like I don't even know what 4 episodes were about. I couldn't tell you if you asked me now. Like
yeah.
I know two people, they're like mechanics, and one of them are on a ship. But
And
like,
I know that
and-
I think their parents died to, I think there was like a Jedi speed chase or something, like speeder chase,
oh
and their
right, yeah,
parents
yeah,
died as a result of something. I think it blew up or
yeah. That's right. Like their ship crashed into them or something like that.
yeah, that was their backstory. But like, it didn't add anything to what they were going for in terms of like
Yeah,
what the
exactly.
final 4 episodes were. And I remember
Yeah.
everyone was saying talking about the last 4 episodes were gonna be the like the pinnacle. And I remember when watching the the, the first episode, shall we say, of the final 4, and
Mm.
I was at my friend's house and we finished the workout and we're like, all right, this is it, Friday night, let's go. We're gonna watch Clone Wars, which is
Yeah.
pretty like we're the boys, man. Like it for some
Yeah.
people. Some people might think, it's pretty like it's in terms of like, oh, that's pretty dumb thing to say Friday night, but we're nerds, man. Who cares? We enjoy it. That's
Facts, bro.
facts. That's
No, it
it.
was good. It's worth watching, honestly. Like,
And
I
then
mean,
when
it's better than
when we saw
most shows.
the bridge scene and we saw Anakin sort of like, first of all, the first thing I noticed was the animation was just like so much more crisp and like top
Yeah.
notch. And then as soon as Anakin started playing with the droids on the bridge and sort of divert, like distracting them, then Obi-Wan landed. When Obi-Wan landed, it sort of did that smirk and smile. We're like, this is the Clone Wars. This is what we wanted. And
Yeah, exactly.
that episode was
Exactly right.
just that scene was crazy with the music and everything. Like it's so
Yeah, that was
rewatchable.
yeah, it is. That was off its head, that scene, like when the whole bridge scene and the 501st come out from underneath, and
Yeah,
it's just really well done, and it shows like how Anakin like was a bit kind of macho, a bit about
very
big.
unorthodox in his style
Yeah,
and how he
yeah.
wrote things.
It was really good.
Oh, then you had then the final. The thing is, I wanted more. I wanted to see more of the other Jedi, but then I understood sort of they just wanted to tell Ahsoka's story in that Battle of Mandalore
Yeah.
and what happened within that specific period of time. like
Mm.
between how Anakin was sort of caught on Coruscant. I think it was no, he was caught in that the Battle of Coruscant in the air that was while
Mm.
Mandalore was happening.
Right, right. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's why I couldn't go over there. Yeah, no, it was good. They did well. Like in the whole how Rex doesn't turn initially and all that with Ahsoka, it grounded it more. Like that, the last episode's basically just Ahsoka and Rex leaving, trying to get off the ship. I
yeah,
thought that was it was a good episode, and they did well with like how to escape, and they didn't want to kill anyone, so they're all stunners, and
yeah,
that
yeah.
was because it still like gave them morality, like they could be changed. Yeah, I thought there was a couple cool ways. I thought what I thought would have been really cool is they like stunned a lot of the clones, but then took the chips out, and then they made like another kind of army with just unchipped clones, and then they fought chipped
Oh,
clones.
okay,
I thought
okay, fair enough, fair enough.
if they did something like that, because then I don't know, it just would have added something that like no one had ever seen
Yeah,
before.
but in terms of like, I think it was just focusing on Ahsoka Rex. It's just gonna be them, and then
Right.
you had Rex realize that all his brothers had died when the ship crashed as well. Like none of them made it out.
Mm.
And then you also had that cool scene where Vader rocks up.
Yeah,
And
that's a awesome tie-in there when he
yeah,
like
yeah,
uses the lightsaber. Yeah, it's really well done because it just Vader's like you've seen how much he's changed and how
yeah.
like he used to be and then that I wanted to like
And at that point,
because
Ahsoka still doesn't know.
yeah, exactly.
Like,
She's still,
because
what does she even think at this point about Anakin?
I think at that point, it was time to like Order 66 had happened, and it was time to hunt the Jedi down, like any remaining
Mm.
survivors. And I think he realized at that point that Ahsoka was still alive. So
Yeah.
that
Does she only realize it's Anakin in Rebels? Or does she figure it out earlier?
I think in Rebels only.
When they like use the Force in the ship and they like feel it with Kanan and she gets like hell upset.
Yeah.
Or she's mad disturbance or whatever.
She has a couple disturbances, but then I think the final season of the final episode of season 2 is when she properly realizes, because that's when
Mm.
Anakin's voice creeps in as well, when he has the one eyed,
Oh yeah.
when his
Oh,
eye
that's
was cut
cool.
open. So
Yeah,
that's when
that's
he realized, and that's
insane.
another callback to Ahsoka, because similar the Anakin's voice as well. Because we discussed Maul a lot from Rebels, and in Clone Wars he's just being Maul again. Like you sort of
Yeah.
have you sort of have the teaser with Savage when they're like, oh, you got to go find your long lost brother, and the Night Sister shows him, I think
Mm.
through like a crystal ball sort of thing, where she shows him like, and it shows like the outline of Maul's face, and he goes and
Yeah.
finds him, and as soon as like he starts regaining his power, I sort of like not supported Maul, but like yeah, supported Maul. Like I enjoyed him. He's too good.
Yeah. You see his hatred there because he's been living
Yeah.
on like this dumpster of a planet
Hmm.
with like a half a body for so long.
Like spider legs.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool how they bring him back and they use all the that magic stuff to really like cements his dark side kind of hatred.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Purely alive because of his like hatred and emotions. Everyone. So in that sense, it makes him like kind of the most fearsome Sith because he's only alive
Yeah.
because of how much he hated someone, which is like the exact opposite of how the Jedi are kind of taught. You know what I mean? To like let go of your emotions and all that.
Even when like Sidious realizes he's still alive, it's just like it's sort of like good memories as well. Brings back memories of the prequels.
Yeah, it's in there. Yeah, the fight between City Savage and Maul is actually a really good fight. Like
Oh,
it's somewhat
it's one of the best. Yeah.
like it shows you how like even though Maul and Savage are like brothers and had good chemistry and
They're
Maul's like full of hatred, they still get kind of clapped because Sidious is just that good.
they're
You know
powerful
what
as
I mean?
well, and like throughout, because like you had Savage killing, he killed a couple Jedi as well. Like I think there
Mm,
was one episode where he killed I think there was a young Mont Color Jedi, I think, and his
yeah,
master died, and he tried to
yeah,
take him
and
on his own, and yeah, what happened to him? What happened to him happened. He was
he gets like yeah, that was cool because even like a trained Jedi still lost, and he's like Padon obviously was no
yeah, yeah,
chance, but it was just well done. And also, that seems like not that childish. Like he gets impaled. It's quite gruesome
yeah,
actually.
yeah. I also
It's a
love what
good.
they did with Asajj Ventress as well.
Oh yeah,
I,
true. We haven't
I,
talked about.
I actually I actually love her. Like I think you
Yeah.
kind of feel sorry for her as well because what I like about the Clone Wars, it sort of adds more depth into Dooku's character as well, and I think Dooku's such a cool character. But
Yeah,
it's
he
sort of
is.
like he's sort of like he keeps like in terms of like he keeps training different people. He's like sort of
Mm.
leads people on. He's like, "Nah, I'll get rid of you. You're wasted." And then he goes on to
Yeah, true.
Savage, and then you have that mission where Savage sort of starts turning good, not good, but in terms of like she has this vendetta against Dooku, and you have the Night Sisters team up, and they try and I think there's where they start choking out Dooku, but he still takes them all on, even though like they're invisible as well, which is really cool.
Yeah, true. Yeah, they like poison him or something. They like throw like a some sort of potion or spell at him or something that makes him can't see. And then he's like, "You think I need eyes to fight you guys?" That's
Yeah, he's just like, bro, I'm badass as well. Like I'm trained.
yeah. No, that's cool. That's a good scene. Yeah,
Okay.
but Ice Ventress pops up somewhere else as well, doesn't she?
Yeah, I think she pops up in other comics after, but I
Mm.
can't remember. Like I I can't remember if she died, but they don't show whether she died or anything. I don't think she
Yeah.
does. I think she has another comic or like extended universe
We
comic
give that a
where
read.
they explain what happens to her, but she didn't pop up in Rebels or anything, so I'm not sure.
Mm.
But yeah, anyway, that's the Clone Wars. The Lego is actually done.
Is it?
Oh yeah,
Is
yeah,
it?
I can show it. It's done. If it wants to focus, there's Luke Speeder, there's C3PO, and there's a little Tusken Raider. But yeah,
That's mad.
it's
Yeah.
kind of small, but I needed a small set because if I try and build the other ones, then this will go on for a couple hours, which is not good, and we do not want that. But yeah, that's the
No, we
first
don't.
episode of Flicks and Bricks, guys. It was actually pretty long. It was probably about an hour, but we're gonna cut it down to 10, 15, gonna edit it. Hopefully have some cool visuals while we talk as well from the actual seasons, what we're talking about. But no.
Fair enough.
It's all good. But I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you for Cameron for coming on. And we're
Alright.
actually gonna do another video where we talk about the Mandalorian trailer, and that will be out. Take
Thanks for
care.
having me.
God bless.